finish line. You can't get there from here.
Strap on your pee bag. Wide Army. Running with scissors.
HWYRT.
HWYRT.
How come you're not running right now? No, seriously, grab some headphones and go for a run while you listen.
Come on, break.
And now, without further ado, here are Brian and Peter. Peter, happy Thanksgiving.
It's hard to believe it's here again. I feel like there's two each year now. It comes around that.
Why do you say that?
It comes around a lot. Feels like there's two.
Okay, like it just happened and now you're doing it again?
Seems that way.
That's one of those things with like traditions and seasons. After a few of them, you do kind of feel like maybe it just happened. I agree with that. Are you doing anything exciting? Are you traveling anywhere?
No, it's going to be a local, which is always good. All the kids coming back from college, blah, blah, blah. Staying local.
Do you have any turkey trots on your Thanksgiving calendar?
Leaving that to almost game day decision.
As am I, my friend. I have the one in Concord, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Historic Concord, Massachusetts. There's a nice one where I'll know some people, and then there's actually a local one that starts just up the road a piece from my house. In fact, there's usually a sign that will probably get planted in the ground on Wednesday night, telling people which direction to go to. So I've done both over the years. We'll see. I'll do one of them.
Yeah, if there's one in my new digs of Brighton or nearby, it's probably a solid yes.
Nice. Well, you'll have to start thinking about that, at least, especially if you have to sign up.
Well, I'll tell you.
Get a number.
Well, speaking of starting to think about, I'm spending an inordinate amount of my day now thinking about that thing we call the soul searching solstice run.
Please enlighten me.
Yeah, it's occupying a lot of my frontal lobe in the sense of what's the word? Terror, ill preparedness, not thinking I will do well.
What is well?
Yeah, that's right. It's not about that. It is.
It's soul searching. It's going to find you where you are.
It's more like a meditation.
Yeah, you've done a 7-hour meditation before, right?
9.
I keep saying 7. Is it really 9 hours?
It's 9 hours and 4 minutes. I've told you multiple times now.
I think I kind of like black out that last 2 hours.
Well, here's the deal. If you actually come for the whole time, here's how this goes. The first 2 hours go by very fast. The last 2 hours take 5 hours.
True.
And then the middle 5 hours take about 5 hours. So the day feels like a 12, 13-hour day.
Yeah.
And it's really 9 hours and 4 minutes.
Yeah. What on earth are we doing? Why are we doing this? I know why.
Go ahead. You want to honor
it's
you
a ritual.
Thing. Yeah, you want to
get as much sun in as you can on the shortest day of the year. Every day is going to have more sunlight than that moving forward.
I'll tell you this. I'm acting like I'm going to be able to just spring into action on the 21st of December without any kind of prep. Because whatever I'm doing right now, it's the reverse of training. So I need to get my head on straight.
Well, aren't you tapering at this point? Probably not yet. I would start getting. Go ahead.
If by tapering you mean, am I pretending that I need to stay immobile for safety until I'm needed?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah. That's fine. But no, I'm not doing, I'm stretching a lot.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Got to stay pliable.
I am seriously altering the volume of water that goes into me every day. I'm starting to get ready. I do want to take these next 4 weeks to just change all of my tissues and regenerate all my cells, which I think I can do.
Well, I think that's going to happen anyway. I think you should probably get some time on feet, like massive amounts of time on feet, hours, hours of it before the solstice, and then like 5 days ahead of time, sort of taper off a bit.
Okay, so what I think I hear you say, Brian, is that you would subscribe to the point of view of you should probably practice what we're about to do.
Yeah, just get some more walking in. That's all.
Okay, so I didn't hear Netflix in there. I didn't hear lay on the couch.
Well,
I heard.
If you have a treadmill, there's Netflix involved. Sure.
Yeah. No. I guess I could go to the gym too. Okay.
Oh, you have a gym that's still in business? That's nice. That must be so great.
What happened? Wait, what? Alert.
We talked about this last time.
Alert, news alert.
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 No, my gym is closing.
It's still functional now.
Until the end of November.
Which is like tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many, this is a fun one. With 7 days left as we record this in the month of November, how many more times do you expect to walk into that gym?
Well, I would go Monday. Monday's
One.
my guaranteed gym day.
Gotcha.
And then, no, we had the holiday, so probably none.
So just the one more than none more.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to get to my gym one more time in November, or another way to say that is for the first time.
First time. Right.
Yeah.
One time, first time.
One time, first time.
Yeah.
Brian, this is rare. Mm-hmm. We don't usually do it this way, but I want to interrupt sort of our state of the state to introduce the great Emily Saul. Emily Saul has just jumped into our Zoom. Emily Saul of Esau Movement. Hi, Emily.
Hi, friends.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you both?
It's really nice to have you here. I want to say it's random. I bet it's not. What's going on with you?
Well, life is good. Not much is going on. Just kind of enjoying the weekend that we have in front of us, and appreciating all the good things that life has to offer.
We were just talking about, we're just under a month now from the Soul Searching Solstice run / event / walking for Peter. What if any shift might you make an appearance in during that 9-hour 4-minute day?
It's a 9-hour 4-minute day. I really don't know yet. I have not been able to nail down my schedule for that yet. Last year, I did a remote version of the Soul Searching Solstice because I was in New Hampshire for the week, and the event happened during the week. So this year, I will be taking my annual December trip to New Hampshire with my husband, and we will enjoy some time away. And if we return a day early, then I can take part in some or all of the Soul Searching Solstice with everyone. Otherwise, I'll probably have some version of it that I do on my own again.
I can tell you, Emily, your scenery kicked our scenery's backside last year. You were up at some ski resort. It was magical looking. It was fantastic. Yeah. We're running around a little lake in the suburbs. I mean, it's pretty. It's fine. Yours was better.
Well, I appreciate that, but I will remind you that I was doing an out and back, a 2-mile out and back segment. I did that 10 times in the day, once each hour of daylight. And it took about 3/4 of a mile to get to the pretty part. So then I had about a half mile of the pretty
Mhm.
part, and then, another 3/4 of a mile of like highway and parking lot. That
Oh,
was
okay. Well,
so I only showed you pictures of the pretty part.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I'm excited to see who shows up and how it goes for you guys. And I appreciate you letting me interrupt the flow of conversation. But did either of you yet share what your hopes and dreams are for the day? Do you have intentions or goals?
The shortest day of the year will be the longest run of my life. May end up crying some tears. I really just hope I survive. Gonna put one foot in front of the other. Who knows what I'll discover on my soul-searching solstice run. December 21st is really gonna hurt. My soul-searching solstice run. I'm hoping that it's worth it, becoming malnourished. Pounding that pavement, looping 5K. I really hope that I don't dehydrate on my soul-searching solstice run. I'll tell you all about it when I get done.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good question. It's always a good question. Uh, my goal is to get there before the sun goes up, which sounds easy, but it's the key to the success of the day, I think. I have to deliver Internet Dan because he'll be staying at my house the night before. So if I can get there with Dan pre-sunrise and start moving at sunrise, that will be a huge accomplishment. And then I guess the next big one is to just keep moving and for 9 hours and 4 minutes. That's really the next big one. And then a third one that's sort of a tie for the top three is to chat with people if they come out. And that's always fun for me to just catch up with people. Brian?
Yeah, I'm taking your third one as my first one, really to chat with people and wish everybody luck and hope that they're enjoying their version of the soul searching solstice run. And I think I did that last year. I think I ran with almost everybody for a lap or as much of a lap as I could keep up with people. And for me, I don't know. It's really just keep moving. I don't know how many laps I'm going to run. We'll see. This has been an ongoing struggle for me all year, but I am looking forward to it, and I'm most looking forward to it because other people have mentioned it to me how much they're looking forward to it. So that makes each loop kind of special. That somebody else has been thinking about it, and Emily, you missed it. That when Peter and I first got on the microphones here, he said he's been thinking about the soul searching solstice run quite a bit in the last few days. So that sort of anticipation makes me happy. But are you thinking about it at all, Emily? Sports psychologist to the stars. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I think it's such a wonderful event in the first place. I'm thinking back to the origin of the idea, Brian, and how it had so much purpose that first year that you did it. And I really love seeing year over year how other people have found their own sense of connection to it and purpose in it. And um, I love the opportunity for there to be such a variety of ways that people approach it. That's one of the things I love most about it. It being such a long event, so people could go they really could show up intending to challenge themselves in terms of how many miles they run or how long they stay in motion, or the many aspects of physical activity, like just being able to nourish yourself well enough over that course of time to not hate it, whether you're walking or running. Doing it in December, navigating the weather, is it warm, is it cold, and figuring out. So I think there's a lot of room for learning, and that's what I love seeing people do, is showing up, committed to challenging themselves, learning something about themselves, kind of finishing it as a more knowledgeable, a more expanded person than they started it. I certainly know that's how I experienced it when you and I ran together that first time. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Can you guys remind me? I used to know this cold. What is the circumference of a one revolution around the lake?
It's about a 5K.
Okay.
I mean, it's perfect from a psychological perspective that you're just focusing on like a lap. You don't have to think about really how long that is or how many miles, because it's that nice little segment of distance that anyone who does any movement with their body is like, yeah, I can do that. Like, I can go for a walk and do that. I could go for a little jog and go do that. So it's a little bit easier to say yes to one lap than it is to think about all the miles. And so then, as long as you keep track, and most of us have GPS trackers on our wrists, but as long as you just have a sense of how many laps you've done, you kind of know, you can do the math and figure out how many miles you've gone. But it makes it a little bit easier to feel just the ease of like, well, just gonna take the next little piece and then get a little fuel, get a little hydration at the aid station that we build, and it's a nice way to break it up for people.
And the terrain's not bad. Depending on the weather, it's
all weather dependent. Exactly.
Yeah.
It is all paved. It's pretty flat, so you're not dealing with elevation or hills. But the quality of the surface, in terms of if there's snow or ice, or if it's raining. And the other element that's always interesting is because you're going around a lake, you're getting every directionality of wind. So it's not like there's any lap that you will go on where you're going to be fully protected from the wind. So you have to kind of prepare yourself for that. Because there's no hiding.
Emily, I'm so sorry. We've gone this far in and I haven't asked you, how was your run today?
Well, thank you for asking. I did not run today. I ran yesterday. I did some early miles with our friend Louise for her birthday, and I ran some Rogue Hills in Somerville. And that run was nice and easy and about 9 miles of distance for me, and that was lovely. And this morning, I actually went to the gym and did some strength training, and I did a little rowing on the erg, the rowing machine. So,
has that been coming back in, or is that brand new, or what?
That's like every once in a while, but I would have possibly done some running today, but it was really rainy. And every once in a while, as much as I like to be weatherproof, I also like to just decide to not run in the feels like 32 degrees and rain. So I opted to do a little bit of like warm up and cardio on the erg rather than running outside.
Emily, of course, you're not here by chance. We've asked you to come on to do a segment we call Better Calls with Saul.
Emily Saul of the Emily Saul of the November. Emily Saul of the. Oh, hello.
Better Calls with Saul.
Well, I haven't heard that one in a while, but we got a call from listener Jennifer, and she thought, and we certainly agreed, that this was a great one to call you in on. It's pretty heavy duty, but it's right in line with some stuff that we talk about in the show. And Emily, I'm sure that with your clients, you work with them on a regular basis about, should we just go ahead and play it? Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense.
Hey guys, it's Jennifer. I was formerly in Chicago and now I'm in the Charlotte area. And I think I have a Better Call Saul question. So this is the 9th of November, and next Saturday I'm supposed to be running the Every Women's Marathon down in Savannah, Georgia. However, on Tuesday of this week, I went in for a check-in with my general practitioner because I was having specific shin pain. She rushed me off to get x-rays and sent me to an orthopedic, and the x-rays didn't show a stress fracture, but the orthopedic said in pretty blunt terms that because of my bone structure, I was at high risk for stress fractures, and scheduled me for an MRI, which I had this morning. 0 out of 5 stars, don't recommend. And more or less has concluded, even without the MRI results, that I should not be running at all. And so for someone who has had a late start to running and kind of has oriented her life around running schedules and being part of this community. Sorry. It's been a really hard thing to imagine removing from my life. And so I am looking for maybe some guidance, some feedback on what I do when I get the results from the MRI and potentially am told, you're out, you're done, and this is the end of your running career. And I don't feel like I can be part of any of the running community if I can't run. And so this has been a particularly rough week. It just feels like I'm at the start of a time frame where things are just going to be taken away from me. And so, sorry, I thought this was not going to be as hard as it was to ask. Anyway, if you have any advice or suggestions or hope, I'm lacking hope, I would love to hear it. So thank you, and I guess goodbye for now.
Well, certainly there's a lot of emotion in Jennifer's message there. Now, the easy part for me is to say, Emily, what message of hope do you have?
I think we all have a lot of sympathy. Those of us who have run and had injuries or disruptions to that running practice, we certainly feel a lot of empathy for the layers there. And that's the piece that I pay a lot of attention to. There's a lot of layers to what she described experiencing. There's the immediate experience of, I've been training for this marathon and it's like tomorrow basically, and I'm not going to get to do it. So that's a pretty significant experience. That's a loss. And some of the other layers are the uncertainty about what's the medical kind of prognosis and whether there's going to be a bone injury that she's having to heal and recover from. If there's other aspects of that, which I sort of pay attention to in terms of the orthopedist's recommendation of, based on x-ray visible bone structure, you're at high risk for bone injury. And then the layer of, Jennifer's sense of connection and community and organizing herself in a lot of ways around her running, which means that it's giving her a pretty big sense of purpose and meaning. So there really are a lot of layers to this, which are worth addressing and responding to. Does that feel right to you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's dead on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also hearing once your body starts to betray you or age catches up to you, the idea of I'm going to have to forfeit things. I'm going to have to let things go. I'm going to have to abandon things. So there's that desperation.
Yeah. Yep. That call for hope. So wouldn't it be great if you could crowdsource or like put out a GoFundMe for hope?
Yeah, I have some on Facebook Marketplace. It's available.
Well, I know that it is really hard to hold on to that brightest version of hope, but a big part of how we navigate through the darkest times is by sometimes finding even the tiniest little spark. May not be the brightest version, but we can certainly find forward movement. We can find a direction to point ourselves in. We can find even some good sometimes in the most challenging situations. So, you guys have thoughts you want to add, or you want me to sort of dive in where it feels right? And I also want to acknowledge that when someone shares a situation and experience like this, it's challenging in a sense to have like a one-sided conversation in return. If I was having a conversation with Jennifer, I'd probably ask quite a few more questions along the way. But I've certainly got some ideas about how to offer her some guidance in this moment.
I was moved by, she's experiencing some realizations even as she's leaving the message, as if she's writing like a diary, because the immediacy of sort of the situation for her is right there. And I would imagine that even just days later, things may or may not have looked a little bit different to her. But it's an important piece of, when this stuff starts to happen, when an injury happens or when a chronic injury is ongoing, I mean, there's a level of shock that comes with it, right? There's a level of processing you got to go through. And
Definitely.
So my question to you, Emily, would be like, how much time do we allow ourselves? Should we allow ourselves? Do we need to allow ourselves to go through sort of that process of shock into realization and then sort of into acceptance, so that we can then continue to move through it and not get caught in sort of that eddy swim back loop of, well, this is the worst thing that's ever happened?
Yeah, it's a great question, because our human desire to make sense of things tends to move pretty quickly. So even when we don't yet have all the information, or when we are really feeling kind of the shock of something, our brain is still trying to make sense of it. And I think that's why we trend toward that worst case scenario, because if it is the worst case scenario and I'm working on wrapping my head around it, like at least I'll be able to survive that. That's sort of the attempt that goes on in our minds. So, there isn't a specific amount of time, but I think the thing you're pointing out really smartly, Peter, is that we have reactions to both the information that we have and the information we don't yet have. And I think that's a big piece of Jennifer's response. The degree of emotion that we're hearing is that she has a sense that there is information yet to get from the MRI, which, as we're recording this, I'm sure she has that information at this point. But when she left the message, she didn't yet have that information. And so she's trying to make sense of what she knows right now and all of the unknowns. So she's more likely to find herself considering the worst case scenario and then emotionally responding as if that's actually happening. I think that's where, she's describing the sense of like, I'm going to lose my entire community. I'm going to have no place that I feel like I belong, and I'm not going to have an opportunity to do this thing at all. And so I always recommend for people who are processing a lot of information, some of which they don't yet have, to both allow themselves to have, give yourself permission to have the reaction that you do, like your feelings do matter, and to also very much allow yourself to stay open to the information you don't yet have, and to just recognize where you're starting to build a story, a narrative in your own mind about the information that you don't yet have. Because she has been given information, there's something to pay attention to with her bone, her shin right now. Running a marathon may not be the best plan for that bone. That she does need to address whatever it is that's going on, both currently and maybe if there is a bigger condition with her bone strength, bone density that she may need to address. But also, she doesn't have clear and finite information. So the idea that she might lose running entirely, like at all, to me, that's a conclusion or kind of a landing point that it isn't really helpful for her to experience, because that just feels awful. And B, there isn't enough evidence to make that real. There's a reason why we get second opinions in the medical world, and there's a reason why, taking time to just gather more information, learn more about what, even if there is a recommendation that the orthopedist said, you shouldn't be running, I would want to get a ton more information. Like, where does that come from? What is that recommendation for? What is the condition? Is it simply a bone density issue? And then there's lots of paths that you can begin to explore. Like, are there any interventions for that? Has anyone else ever experienced this? What do they do? So that's what I mean by there's hope even in getting a little bit more information. So it's worth both acknowledging your feelings, but then putting a little bit of a boundary on it and go, I'm not gonna react as if this is the absolute truth until I have more information. And when I actually get more information, if that is the case, I'm going to allow myself the opportunity at that point to figure out what my next steps are. But I don't need to live right now as if that worst case scenario is happening, because that doesn't end up being very helpful for us as a strategy for coping.
I've decided for myself that whenever I see a medical professional, I like to ask them, hey, do you run or have you run?
Mm.
Because I tend to find that when I'm treated by somebody with a running connection, whether it be themselves or a family member, it's a little bit more, well, we can come up with some things around this. I never want to talk to someone who says, you're done, it's flat out, you'll never have, that idea of being, I don't want to say anti-run, but I feel like there is a little bit of, yeah, well, that's why your knees hurt, and it's sort of like this very catch-all binary thing. And I don't think that's what that is and shouldn't be. And I worry just from the tone of her message in that regard, that perhaps she is seeing somebody who's like, yeah, this is the worst possible thing you could do.
I agree. It's a good perspective. So, go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say to the, the point of community in that, within any running community, I don't know, maybe somewhere between 100 and 100% of runners will have suffered injuries at some point in their running career. Maybe not as significant as the one Jennifer's dealing with, but everyone has to pause running at some point. And so there's a lot of information, experience, and support. And that's what's needed usually right away, just to know that you're not alone in this. And then, as you said, Emily, specific, treatments or interventions for whatever Jennifer's actual situation is could be found. Somebody else might have gone through the same thing. And if not, even in the end, even if I jump over all of these hurdles and come to what Jennifer has presented as the worst case scenario and not being able to run again, that I have never felt abandoned by any running community, whether I'm running or not. I think most race directors probably are former runners and become more involved in something like that. Peter and I have done many years of podcasting. At times, most of the time, one or the other of us is not running because of one injury or recovery cycle or another. Maybe we're just not good at it. But I think it's fairly common, and unfortunately more common as you age. But there's a lot of wisdom and experience in people who have run for people who are just getting into it, and that excitement is really helpful. But even so, I think the larger picture, and Emily, I think you focus on this a lot, which is movement, endurance, even increased flexibility, all the benefits of movement, whatever it is, are profound and I think necessary. So, there's hope in that if one mode is either gone for good or gone for some significant amount of time, there's many, many, many other ways of movement.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job of kind of zooming out, Brian, looking at the aspects that clearly are so important to Jennifer. What we hear from her messages, that community and a sense of connection and a feeling of belonging, being a part of something is important to her. That's a basic human psychological need, that feeling of belonging. And that doesn't go away. Also, the value of health, having a practice that allows you to be contributing to your physical and mental health. Running is not the singular and specific means of experiencing connection and health. Running happens to be the current method that Jennifer's using to experience those things. But when you zoom out and focus more on the sense of connection and contribution to your health, those continue to be accessible and available to her, regardless of whether she is currently running. So running is more just the conduit for those kinds of experiences. And, both the truth that you just named, that your friends who are your friends through your running community are your friends. It's not like if you didn't run, they just wouldn't like you or couldn't talk to you or that sort of thing. And I totally get the change that happens sometimes if the way that you spend time socially with people is through running, and now you're no longer doing that, it can be more difficult, or the timing and the context of connecting with people can need to change, either in the short term or long term. But that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities to feel connected. That doesn't mean there are no longer opportunities to either find other aspects of your movement practice that you can really invest yourself in. Even sometimes when you've got a specific injury, there may be rest and recovery you need to do, but there's also often PT and other strengthening exercises that you can do. And that becomes now that conduit for how you are contributing to your sense of health. So it's just finding the avenue through which you can experience that kind of thing. And I would certainly hope that Jennifer doesn't lose sight of those things. So kind of zooming out to the bigger picture of what she's getting from running, that helps us then hold on to and be hopeful about being able to access those, even if, again, short-term or long-term, she's not running specifically. But I do think there's a lot of opportunity to think about that. And not for nothing, I also was just thinking about how we're focused a lot as we're talking on kind of the hopefulness, hopelessness, the like, what does she do about it? I think we should also just acknowledge that in the first place, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of commitment, and is a huge accomplishment for her to have trained for and really be ready for a marathon. Even if she didn't get to go to the starting line and get to the finish line, that commitment and investment in training for it and being ready for it is an accomplishment in and of itself, and it's a big deal. So I hope that she can look at that and feel proud of that, see that as a gain rather than only as a loss of the marathon that she didn't run. I think that's a big deal too.
Yeah, just to piggyback that on that, Emily, I mean, I know I haven't signed up for a marathon since Peter and I did the Mount Desert Island Marathon. What was that, 2 years ago? 3 years ago? 2 years ago. Primarily for that, because it is such a big commitment and the training is so much that I've been unwilling to do it. And what I'm trying to say in that comment is just piggybacking on your congratulations to Jennifer for having gone through that process and committed to it and successfully navigated it. Even, we like to say, but I think it's really true, is that, the marathon is just sort of the cherry on top. It's the parade at the end, but it's all the work that has given you what you have and what you've experienced.
It's so true. It's a really good point.
We've not heard anything back from Jennifer by email or anything?
No, not yet. No, we had a short back and forth by email, and then I let her know that we were going to be on the phone with Emily for Better Calls with Saul. And so we may hear back, or Jennifer may be listening to this right now and be getting ready to shoot us some information about what's going on with her. But I hope she's doing really well and feeling a little more hopeful than a few days ago when she left that voicemail for us.
Yeah, I'm also really glad that Jennifer sent the voicemail. I think that's another win in her column, to be able to say, oh, I've got resources around me. I can, connect with the How Was Your Run Today community. I can get a little bit more information, not only for Jennifer, but for everyone who experiences some kind of injury or, significant disruption from their practice of running or other movement. It's one of the things that people do seek me out to talk about in my practice, how they wrap their head around their, the identity shift that happens when they go, oh, I'm not running anymore. Like, does that make me a runner? Am I not a runner anymore? And even if I was thinking about this, for Jennifer too, that even if for what I would be surprised to find is a legitimate, you may not run anymore, even if that was the outcome, which I'd be so surprised if that was really, really the case. But even if that was the case, there's still a lot of opportunity to reflect on and draw out the sort of lessons and the goodness that has come from having running be such a part of her identity, something that she's really cultivated, she said, more recently in her life. And there's lots of work that you can do, either with a therapist or with a sports psychologist, around that identity aspect, your sense of connection to it, and how you ultimately how you get a little bit more connected to the self part, like the you part that is that's being nurtured through your running, right? It's not running that makes you. Running supports you in developing yourself and experiencing aspects of yourself that you might really enjoy or really appreciate, feel proud of, feel a sense of satisfaction with. And those aspects of you exist not simply because of running, as in if running disappeared, then those parts of you would disappear. Those parts of you are there, like for good. So to have an opportunity to really talk more about that, almost parse out like the parts that are you and what's the running thing. Again, in order to be able to look for, if not running, what other activities or experiences in your life can allow you to continue to nurture and support those aspects of yourself. But that identity piece can feel really, really scary when it feels threatened. So when Jennifer was referring to like, there's just so much loss, I was like, yes, there's loss, but not globally. Like this is not an absolute all or nothing. Either I'm a runner or I'm nothing. Either I have everything that makes me happy or I have nothing. Like it doesn't work like that. So we have to work through some of that emotion and some of the like difficult reactions to it in order to get more to that place of being able to see more of the detail to it. But that's important to do, to get the support to do that.
Emily, I've been slightly giggling along because it feels like you're talking about me in some ways, where it's all or nothing. And I will just mention or plus one your comment about Jennifer's strength and even making the call and reaching out for help. You and I are friends, Emily Saul. We see each other.
Did you make your payment this month?
We're professional friends.
No, Brian, you're one of my dear friends. Yeah.
We see each other in the physical form usually once or twice a week at a workout.
Yeah.
And it sometimes takes me months to bring up a topic to you. when I know you would, of course, be receptive to at least listening, if not dispensing some good advice or some helpful words, because I think sometimes saying it out loud makes it more real, or you're having to face your own internal concerns and fears. So just saying it and saying, I need some help with this is a huge step.
Yep. I agree. And you're very right that sometimes saying it out loud makes it feel real in a way that we're not ready for, or we don't want that to be the truth. And so we kind of hold it inside. But I also find this is kind of the plus side of that same practice. When you say it out loud, not just the thing that you are scared is happening, but when you also say out loud the things you're scared of, like I'm so scared that I've just been told I shouldn't be running at all. And that means I'm scared that I'm basically going to have no friends anymore because I'm going to lose this entire sense of connection to my running community. Sometimes, like Peter was saying before, when I say that fear out loud, the logical part of my brain hears that and goes, "What? Wait a minute. I mean, those people, would they just abandon me? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's not quite the case. It just feels like that." And I mean, that's one of the more important things that I ever do in conversations with people is making that distinction between sometimes the sense that we have or the feeling we have about it, the fear we sort of feel in our bodies is not actual. It's not accurate, right? It's not realistic. And so when we can make that differentiation between it's something that my reaction is based on this very outsized idea, and if I can see the outsizedness of it, I might then have a chance at right sizing it to better match what the situation actually is. And that's what I was describing before around, not sort of rushing into bigger conclusions or a bigger narrative than really exists until we actually have that information. So what is a response that, that does feel, like it fits with what's actually going on? For example, does it make a ton of sense that Jennifer would be really sad that she's not running the marathon she trained to do? Yeah, be sad. Like that's a loss of an experience. And as I also said, allow yourself to appreciate what you've gained in that process. So instead of letting the loss or the sadness of that loss become outsized, we're sort of counterbalancing it with that sense of, and I've already gained a whole bunch from this, and that's actually going to be useful to me as I navigate through these next steps in getting more information and figuring out what I do next. So yeah, we definitely need to be aware of those big reactions and the situations themselves. What's more accurate, and that's helpful to do when you have someone to help kind of hold the pieces or listen as you say it out loud and be like, "Do you hear that? Because I hear this," and kind of negotiate with yourself a little bit through some of those feelings.
Emily, this is Peter. We're way closer than you and Brian. So believe me when I say, I think you should consider doing this for a job.
Oh, Peter,
you got a gift.
Thank you for seeing me. I really feel seen. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're the best.
You know how to put a button on it, Peter. Tie it up with a bow.
Who's that, Brian? I'm not familiar with you as the way I should be. I have to do a little bit of business while we're recording, so if you'll stay with us, Emily, quick shout out, Dave in Japan, who helped produce one of the more recent episodes of How Is Run Today, just wrote to me the other day and said, "You know who's awesome and doesn't get enough love is that George Woodward. You tell Marathon George, he's doing it. He's fierce." So if we could just play the Marathon George sting, that'd be great.
Who's that? Well, that's George Woodward right there. Marathon George. Go catch that sheep.
And I think we can all agree that George Woodward is excellent. Would you agree, Emily?
Did George pay his friend dues to me?
I think he said the check was in the mail.
Okay.
Because he still writes checks. He's old school.
That's true.
Go ahead, Emily. You're the guest.
George is great.
So yesterday morning, I show up at the Rogue Hills at 6:30 in the morning, and George comes running up after having joined Emily at something they call early miles, which starts at 5:15 in the morning, something that crazy people do.
Nighttime.
So George and I ran. This is very unusual. Well, he has been traveling the United States for the last 3 months, so he's been in Boston very rarely over the last 3 months. So anyway, George and I ran hills together, which was nice. We did 3 miles of hills. We actually did 2 miles, 0.97. And George stopped, and we were going at a very comfortable pace. Even I was comfortable with this pace that we were doing. And I'm like, wow, I'm keeping up with George. That's pretty good. And then I went running down the sidewalk to click over my Garmin, and he goes, "Oh, you're one of those people?" And I came back. I said, "George, this is full on vanity and pride, because we're talking the difference between a 2 mile morning and a 3 mile morning. And I'm like, I gotta hit three for crying out loud. And then I remembered, oh, all of those 3 miles are after George had just run six, starting at 5:15 in the morning. So, I'm nothing. He's everything. Thanks for bringing that up, Peter. George, you're the best.
I'm going to add two details, Brian, to your story that's going to emphasize even more that George is great. Okay. Number one, he ran a little over 7 miles before you ran hills with him. Okay. And that happened because yesterday was one of the rare, rare, rare days that I did not show up at 5:15. I showed up at 5:30 because I had made a specific plan with not George to show up at 5:30. And I didn't know that George was going to come to early miles yesterday. So he showed up at 5:15, found no one, and went on early miles 7 mile run by himself.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And I only discovered this afterwards when the car that I had parked next to at 5:30, right at 5:30 when I got there, I realized that was George's car. And I was like, oh, George, you showed up at 5:15. I didn't. I'm so sorry. I didn't tell you.
Do you see how the running community supports everyone?
Yeah.
Yes, nothing but supportive.
Well, maybe not so communicative beforehand. We could work on that, I guess. But
well,
did you say punitive? What did you say?
No, communicative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my normal means of communication is I'm there at 5:15 no matter what every Friday. Show up or don't, and if you're late, I'll leave without you. But
running shoes on the other foot. There it goes.
Yeah.
Except when it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. No, but George is great. He is impressive. And if you keep track of his age and his like weekly mileage and his frequency of running races and the other activities that he does, everybody sort of goes like, whoa, I want to be like George when I grow up.
And I think that was my friend Dave's point. Like, I think he's looking ahead and he's saying, all right, there's a way to do this. And we're being given a great gift and a template that is Marathon George.
Yep.
Don't let it get to your head, George.
Oh, his head is advertised.
Who's that? Well, that's George Woodward right there. Marathon George. Go catch that sheep.
Emily, this has been amazing. This is exactly why we invented this segment called Better Calls with Saul. Is there anything else you need to share before you go away?
No.
Excellent. I didn't think so, because you leave it all on the field. That's how you play.
No, I mean, I can always find, I'm going to take it back. I take it back. Yes. I had to work through it.
Okay.
I've gotten at least a couple of texts in the last couple of days for people who are running the Philadelphia Marathon or half marathon that is happening this weekend. Like words of wisdom, like, what do you got for me? And I think here's what I want to say to everybody out there, whether you're running for a race or whether you're debating if you're even going to run at all today or next week or whatever. Those moments when you find yourself going like, I need a little hope, like Jennifer said, or I need a little guidance, or I need a little whatever. I'm going to encourage everyone to take that moment, like, yes, ask for support, and yes, reach out to your friends, and like, yes, get that. Absolutely. And take that moment to just sit in stillness and like in quiet with yourself just for a few moments to ask yourself what it is that you need to hear. Not because other people aren't going to have good things to say, but sometimes the things that you need to hear, you can even ask that good friend, hey, Brian, hey, Peter, will you just remind me that I've been training hard and I'm ready. Can you just tell me that I'm ready. Right? Like sometimes you just need to hear that from someone. And so you don't necessarily need someone else to figure out the magic things to say to you. Sometimes it's worth just reflecting a little bit on what you need to hear. Because sometimes you can say that to yourself and be like, oh, well, that is what I need to hear. And I do believe that. And sometimes you're going to ask for someone to say that exact thing to you, and they are willing to say it to you. But that is a piece of reflection and self-awareness that I think is beneficial for everyone. So both in Jennifer's context and just as we go through our lives and running, sometimes we need to hear certain things, but you might know better than anyone else what it is you need to hear.
Well, I can hear the credit music, and now we don't do credits. And Emily, you get to just be here with us while we do like our end thing where we don't thank anybody, except we got to thank Jennifer for, of course, calling in and leaving that powerful message. And of course, we have to thank you, Emily, for coming and speaking to it. But really, this is a time where Brian and I just say something stupid, and then all of a sudden the show ends. But before the very last bongo beat, Emily, are you going to run on Thanksgiving morning? What's your deal?
I'll probably run on Thanksgiving morning. I don't have a trot or a...
You don't do an organized thing per se.
No, not really. But I do enjoy a good, like Thanksgiving morning, just get out, enjoy when the world feels a little quieter. There's not like the normal hustle and bustle and traffic and things like that.
Yeah, it is a quiet morning. Yeah,
I'll do that. And then on Friday morning,
hit it.
I'll be there at 5:15 for early miles and then hills.
You better text George just to coordinate.
You heard that first. Hey, I wanted to jump on what Emily just said, and to my friend Mark, who's been going through some tapering blues and is going to run the Millinocket Marathon for the first time. You're ready. Go out there and get it.
Yeah.
Where's the finish line? Which way to the finish line?
You can't get there from here.